Right now, as I'm walking through this forest, you can see some of these bumps. Some of them are just tree throws, but the majority of the kind of bumps, or what we'll call field ridges, are actually ancient ancestral Menominee agricultural features. What's unique about this site is it's not only does it have some examples of these rare features, it's the largest single example of these field ridges in eastern North America. These features are very difficult to see on the ground. The drone gets the aerial view, it can collect data very quickly, and it can cut through the vegetation. And right now, a lot of the vegetation obscures the ridges, and it kind of gives us, it flattens the picture for the human eye. The LiDAR is able to use lasers to pierce through that vegetation and create a topographic map, so it's not fooled by the vegetation. And these field ridges would have been the most common archaeological feature on the landscape prior to Euro-American settlement. Today, though, they're very, very rare. So this is an exceptionally unique site, and our efforts here are not only to understand how those ancestral Menominee farmers practice this agriculture, but also to understand what we can do to help preserve these sites and to make sure that we're documenting them for future generations.
I received an email from Dr. Madeleine McLeester a little over a month ago now, it seems, and she asked if I was interested and had the time to come up and help her here at Anaem Omot. They call it the Dog's Belly, otherwise known as 60 Islands. So in archaeology, it's not just about digging, you actually have to take the time and the care to sift through and screen the soil you're removing. And we do this in a systematic way, so we're working with a screen that has wires about a 1/4 inch apart, and then we're looking for things, anything that's out of the ordinary, anything that's not soil. We've been finding a lot of charcoal remains. I mean, we've been collecting things that could be possible seeds, but through further analysis we'll have a better idea of what we are setting aside in that bag.
So what we're looking for with this process is what people were growing on the field ridges. And what this does is we take sediment from the site, we submerge it in water, and then we agitate the water so that anything that's been charred floats to the top. Just like you might decide one year to grow melons or sunflower, they're doing the same thing in the past. And so we're looking to see some of that variety. We're also looking for plants that they might not be eating, but using as fertilizer, in particular the inclusion of wetland plants. And those wetland plants, they used wetland soils to bring structure to the ridges, as well as to act as a fertilizer.
This is on top of one of the many raised beds that we see in this area. The goal of this is to try to actually see the shape of an overall profile of the ridge, so that we can see what people are growing on these field beds and what the overall these field beds are made up of. This is the layer that we're really excited about. This is a really thick charcoal rich layer that's most likely filled with botanicals, charcoal remains, most likely house refuse stuff. And so what's interesting here too is we can see there's multiple different layers here up to their top surface soil here too. So this soil was brought in to create this shape. What this tells us too is a landscape that isn't just passively being lived upon, but what we're showcasing here is this huge, largely modified landscape that communities are coming together and building these large ridge fields all across this landscape in order to feed the communities.
For a long time, even I grew up knowing that Menominee were hunter-gatherers, but it wasn't until I was in late high school years going into college when I learned that actually Menominee were fantastic farmers. And so to work here, to see it from my own eyes, you know, it's just reaffirming and reassuring stuff that we already knew.